Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to master the core foundation of cloud computing by deeply understanding the three primary cloud deployment models. Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are diving into the foundational structures of cloud computing, cloud deployment models. A cloud model simply defines the deployment type of your cloud resources. Think of it as deciding where your IT infrastructure lives and who is fundamentally responsible for managing it. We have three main models to explore today: public, private, and hybrid. Understanding the distinction between these is critical because it directly dictates your operational costs, your security posture, and your overall business flexibility. Let's get started by mapping out how these three environments differ before we dive deep into the mechanics of each one. Looking at our diagram, you can clearly see the three primary cloud models branching out from our core concept. On the left, the public cloud is owned and operated entirely by a third-party provider. In the middle, the private cloud represents an environment dedicated exclusively to a single entity. And on the right, the hybrid cloud acts as a bridge, interconnecting both public and private environments to give you the best of both worlds. We will use this visual map as our guide as we dissect each model step by step. Let's start with the public cloud. What exactly is it? A public cloud is built, controlled, and maintained entirely by a third-party cloud provider, such as Microsoft Azure. In this model, anyone can purchase and access these computing services over the internet. The basic architecture relies on something called multi-tenancy. Imagine an apartment building. The cloud provider owns the entire building, and multiple organizations rent out the individual apartments. You share the underlying physical infrastructure like the servers, cooling, and networking, but don't worry, your specific data and workloads are strictly logically isolated to ensure complete security and privacy. You simply log in via a web browser and consume exactly what you need. This diagram perfectly illustrates the multi-tenant architecture of a public cloud. On the left, we have the single public cloud provider who manages all the heavy, shared physical infrastructure. Notice how the arrows flow out to tenant A, tenant B, and tenant C. While they all draw compute power and storage from the exact same centralized provider, they sit comfortably inside their own logical isolation boxes. This means tenant A cannot see or access tenant B's data, ensuring security while maximizing the provider's economies of scale. Now, why do organizations flock to the public cloud? The biggest driver is unparalleled cost efficiency. The public cloud eliminates the need for upfront hardware investments, shifting your budget to a consumption-based, pay-as-you-go model. You literally only pay for the exact compute and storage you use. Furthermore, it offers massive global scalability and high availability, meaning the provider handles disaster recovery and network redundancy for you. When should you use it? It is absolutely ideal for development and testing environments because your team can rapidly provision and deprovision resources on the fly. It's also the perfect home for websites and apps that experience unpredictable traffic spikes, as the public cloud can dynamically scale out instantly to handle heavy loads. Follow the decision tree on your screen. When you start a new workload, you ask, is my traffic unpredictable? If the answer is yes, the public cloud is your destination because it can scale elastically to meet sudden demand. Even if your traffic is predictable, you must ask, do I want to avoid massive capital expenditures on servers? If yes, again, all roads lead to the public cloud. The final note highlights your rich rewards: massive elastic scale, zero upfront hardware costs, and a globally available environment managed by experts. Moving to the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the private cloud. By definition, a private cloud is a cloud computing environment used exclusively by a single entity or organization. Unlike the public cloud's apartment building analogy, the private cloud is like owning a gated, single-family home. It operates as a strict single-tenant environment, meaning your computing resources, servers, and networks are completely isolated and never shared with other organizations. How is it hosted? You have flexibility. You can host it right inside your own on-premises corporate data center, or you can pay a third-party provider to host a dedicated data center for you offsite. Ultimately, it is the natural, modernized evolution of the traditional corporate IT data center, bringing cloud-like self-service to your private hardware. Take a look at this diagram illustrating the private cloud structure. At the top, we have a single organization, our sole tenant. Their access flows straight into a dedicated private cloud environment. From there, the organization has two distinct deployment choices. They can build it in their own on-premises data center, or they can use a third-party dedicated offsite facility. Notice how both options connect to the single tenant/physically isolated lock at the bottom. Regardless of where the servers physically sit, the environment remains 100% exclusive to that one organization. Why would a business take on the extra cost and maintenance responsibility of a private cloud? The answer boils down to two critical words: control and predictability. A private cloud provides maximum control over your infrastructure, allowing you to tailor hardware, virtualization types, and strict security policies to your exact business needs. Furthermore, because the infrastructure is dedicated solely to you, you get incredibly predictable performance. You never have to worry about a noisy neighbor on a shared server eating up bandwidth and slowing down your apps. You should leverage a private cloud when dealing with highly regulated data, such as patient health records or sensitive financial transactions. It is also the mandatory model when strict data residency and sovereignty laws dictate exactly where and how your data must be stored geographically. This flowchart breaks down the distinct triggers for choosing a private cloud. On the left, we see the core business inputs: strict regulatory compliance needs, data sovereignty laws, and custom hardware requirements. If your organization faces any of these strict triggers, they funnel directly into the private cloud deployment model. Emerging from the private cloud on the right are your guaranteed business results: maximum security and control over your environment, and entirely predictable performance without interference from outside workloads. Now, what if you want the massive, elastic scale of the public cloud, but the strict security and control of the private cloud? Enter the hybrid cloud. A hybrid cloud is an integrated computing environment that strategically combines both public and private clouds. It acts as a seamless bridge, allowing your data and applications to move fluidly between your private on-premises infrastructure and a public cloud provider. How does it achieve this? It binds these two distinct environments together using highly secure network connectivity, like virtual private networks, VPNs, or ExpressRoute, along with advanced orchestration tools. The deep dive takeaway here is that the hybrid cloud eliminates the painful either/or decision for IT leaders. You can host each specific workload in the absolute most appropriate location based on its unique security and performance requirements. Here we see a classic hybrid cloud architecture. On the left, we have the private cloud, which securely houses a highly sensitive database. On the right, we have the public cloud, hosting a highly scalable web application. The most critical component is the two-way arrow in the middle, a secure VPN or ExpressRoute connection that binds them together. This allows the scalable web app in the public cloud to securely query the sensitive database in the private cloud, achieving perfect synergy between scale and security. Why is the hybrid cloud rapidly becoming the enterprise standard? It's all about workload optimization and extreme flexibility. You can brilliantly optimize costs by keeping steady, sensitive workloads in your private cloud while offloading less sensitive, highly dynamic tasks to the cost-effective public cloud. A massive technical benefit of this model is a concept called cloud bursting. If your private cloud suddenly reaches 100% capacity, it can automatically burst into the public cloud to borrow extra compute power to handle the spike. When should you leverage this? It's absolutely perfect for seasonal businesses that experience massive, temporary traffic surges. It is also the ideal strategy for cautious enterprises that want to migrate to the cloud in a safe, phased approach rather than moving everything all at once. Let's visualize the concept of cloud bursting, a true superpower of the hybrid cloud. Look at the state diagram. During normal traffic, your private cloud easily handles the day-to-day load, keeping costs predictable and data highly secure. But suddenly, there's a traffic spike, like a holiday event. Instead of crashing, the system triggers cloud bursting. The excess traffic is automatically and seamlessly routed into the public cloud, which scales up instantly to handle the surge. Once the event ends, traffic drops and the system gracefully returns to the normal, private state. Let's tie all these concepts together with a highly practical, real-world use case: the retail surge. Imagine a global e-commerce retailer running a massive Black Friday sale. They face a severe dual challenge. Their website must instantly scale to handle 10 times the normal user traffic, but their customer payment and financial data must remain under strict, private compliance controls on premises. The ultimate solution is the hybrid cloud. In execution, they host their web front-end in the public cloud, allowing it to elastically scale out and absorb millions of hits from around the globe without crashing. Meanwhile, they securely link that web front-end to their private cloud, where their highly secure transactional database remains safely on premises. They achieve limitless public scale while maintaining absolute private security. This sequence diagram illustrates our Black Friday use case in real time. The user connects to the public cloud web servers, which seamlessly absorb the massive surge in browsing traffic. When the user finds an item and submits their payment, the public cloud doesn't store that sensitive financial data. Instead, it securely routes the transaction down the encrypted VPN tunnel to the private cloud database. The private cloud securely processes the compliant payment, sends a confirmation back up to the web tier, and the user gets their success message. It is a flawless, secure, and highly scalable operation.